friend. Welcome to the Care Collective podcast. If you're new here, this is a space for caregivers, the ones holding it all together, the ones navigating appointments and anticipatory grief and exhaustion, and a little bit of love all at the same time. This podcast exists because caregiving can be incredibly isolating, and I truly believe that when caregivers feel seen and supported, everyone benefits, including the people they're caring for. So, whether you're caring for a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a child, or you're just walking closely beside someone who is, I'm really glad that you're here. And today, I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough, but I will go ahead and interrupt and give a little note that I know that I'm probably going to sound very stuffy today because I have a little bit of allergies and a cold going on. But, I know that you guys still have to show up no matter what, and I feel fine. I just sound kind of funny, so I wanted to get in and record an episode today, anyways, because we've talked about burnout, we've talked about anticipatory grief and navigating the medical system, but we don't really talk about what it feels like when your friendship starts to change. And I know, you've probably gone through several stages of life where your friendships change, or when they quietly fade, or you just wake up one day and realize that your world has kind of gotten smaller. I feel like I've gone through that myself several times over, especially as I've moved around a lot and seen my friendships change. And it's not that you want to lose friends, or, it's not that you purposely signed up for caregiving so that people would want to be your friend. It's just that things change, and whether it was painful and you had a friendship breakup, or it just kind of naturally happened, it still hurts regardless. So if you've ever felt any of that, this episode is for you. So maybe it kind of looks like canceling plans again. Maybe it's sending a text that says, I'm so sorry something came up, even though that something is just that you're exhausted and you actually did have the time to hang out that day. Or maybe it's sitting in a hospital room, scrolling Instagram again, watching everyone else's life seem to move forward. Engagements, trips, brunches, girls' night. And you're thinking, I don't even remember the last time I felt normal, let alone had time to go out to brunch. Or maybe you just stopped getting invited after turning down one too many invitations. And it's not because they're cruel or because you kept saying no, but eventually they kind of just stopped asking, and that's a very specific ache that you feel with that. And most caregivers will carry that quietly. So what's really happening is that caregiving shrinks your world. And it's not because you don't care about your friends or because you're antisocial, but it's really just because your nervous system is tired. You're managing appointments, medications, insurance, you're regulating the person you're caring for. You're responsible for their emotions as well now. There's financial pressure, there's fear about what's coming next, and also that grief that's always there. And when you're holding all of that, small talk can feel impossible. You don't have the energy to explain everything, and you don't want to feel like you're trauma dumping on someone. So you just start to say, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm doing okay. My mom's doing great. Yeah, we went to the hospital the other week, but it's fine." I literally caught myself last week talking to someone, and they were trying to ask, "Oh, Michaela, there's like a gas station going up around the corner from your house, and now they're building something else. Do you know what the other building is that they're building? Since you like live so close to it, you must know what's going up." And I have like not even really been able to leave my house much lately because I work from home a lot of the time. And my fiance has been using my car because since we got into a car accident and he drives more than I do, he's the one that gets the car. And so I have been stuck at home. And so I didn't think before I started talking because I feel socially awkward now that I don't hang around with people that much. And so before I could stop myself, I was like, oh yeah, I actually have no idea what they're building because I don't leave my house since the car accident. And they were like, wait, you got to a car accident? Are you okay? What happened? And I had to sit there and explain, oh, like this is what happened. The picture looks kind of dramatic, but it's just that I don't get to leave my house now because I literally don't have a car to drive. And I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. And I know it's because to me it feels so normal, but to the outside person, for me to just drop I was in a car accident is crazy. And so sometimes, when you go through these things and you feel awkward, it creates that feeling that you don't want to trauma dump on somebody and you don't want to, make things feel awkward for them. That's the big thing is you protect them from feeling your pain, your sorrow, your awkwardness. When relationships really only thrive off of that awkwardness and that connection and etc. So, moving on into the next point of conversation that I wanted to make today is something that can be kind of hard to say out loud. That caregiving is really confronting. It reminds people that illness is real, that parents age, that loss is inevitable, and not everyone has the emotional capacity to sit with you through that. That doesn't mean they're bad people. but it can make them feel distant. And sometimes your friends are not going to know what to say, or they're going to say the wrong thing to you. And sometimes that distance comes up because they don't know how to show up. And sometimes you outgrow those relationships that worked when life was easy. And that doesn't mean that you're unlovable. Please do not take that from this conversation. I've learned so many times in my life that when somebody's distant, it's usually stuff going on in their own life. I mean, not to say that I never make mistakes, I do make a lot of mistakes, but a lot of things can come from things going on in their own life and feeling difficult. And I think, if somebody comes to you, something I hear quite often from many caregivers is, oh, they just say, let me know what I can do to help you. And you're sitting there like, well, now I have to come up with something to tell you to do? Like, what? That just puts the burden back with the person and not, it doesn't relieve any help for me to have to sit there and tell you what to do. But at the same time, I think that is them showing good intent and showing that they want to be there for you. So sometimes I think it takes being vulnerable and literally telling them things that they could do for you and getting super specific with that. So maybe you let them take your car to go get an oil change. Maybe you tell them to come do your dishes or to, excuse me, meal prep some food for you or something, right? Like there are so many different ways. I know when I have friends that go through a loss or caregiving or something's going on in their lives, I try to always lead with there is no expectation to respond to my text. I just wanted you to know I was thinking of you. Because I think some people feel awkward if time has gone by or they feel guilty for not responding. And now that I have been lucky to be in this position where I talk to people about stressful situations and just really truly see how much we all have going on in our lives, I've just come to have so much more empathy and to feel lucky if somebody lets me be a part of their life, period. Like that's if they want to send me a text, cool. I'm grateful that they share that with me. If they want to call me, amazing. I'm so glad I got to talk with him. Like whatever time we have with people is so special and sacred. And so, being able to connect with somebody once a year, once a month, just make the most of that time and be respectful for them. And, if you have a friend that is that way for you, that still shows up, even if it takes 50 times asking them to talk to you, show them that you appreciate that because I think that goes a long way. Because I know I'm somebody that will say that, and sometimes I feel awkward. But when I see the points of connection that come from it, or have somebody tell me how much it means to them, it just encourages me to go and to be a kind person and to help even more. So I wanted to talk again about grief and how that can kind of be present. I think that's something you're quite familiar with if you're a caregiver. There's a lot of grief in your identity, I think, even. You might be grieving beyond just the person you're caring for, the version of your life before caregiving, and the friendships that used to feel effortless. And that is a lot to carry all at once because just grief touches so many points of caregiving, and it's been crazy for me to think about, to me grief has always meant oh, it's when you lose someone, right? Like that's what happens. You lose someone and you grieve. But it's so much more than that. And I think it is completely normal if you feel like you have to grieve these relationships or friendships in a way as well. So, research has shown that family caregivers are significantly more likely to report loneliness and social isolation compared to non-caregivers. Isolation isolation increases the risk of depression, of anxiety, and burnout. So I promise you're not being sensitive. There is a lot to it when we're talking about losing your friends and seeing your social circle shrink. But common doesn't mean that, you're gonna have to be stuck like this forever. Because here's what I've learned from listening to so many caregivers, and this is what I want you to focus on. That sometimes you are going to lose friends, but rather than thinking about the loss, maybe you see it as strengthening the really deep friendships that you have. You find out who can sit with you through hard conversations, who's going to show up for you at 2 o'clock in the morning when you have to make a hospital run, who's just going to sit there and not try to fix everything and just listen. And sometimes the people that you're going to meet along the way, whether it's in a comment section on a post where you both are lamenting about the loss of something, or maybe it's somebody that you meet while you're at the hospital that you happen to see there, right? Sometimes those are going to be deeper friendships than the ones that you lost because I think when you're in these stressful moments, it just forges bonds deeper than anything I have ever seen before. But also acknowledge that you might need different kinds of support now, and that's perfectly okay. You're not being high maintenance, you're just carrying more than the average person is. So if you are the caregiver that feels like you're struggling and feels like you don't have friends anymore, I want you to hear this from me today. You are not too much. You are not too difficult to love. You're not being dramatic, and you deserve a community that understands the season of life that you're in. So if this resonated with you, send this episode to someone who might not know how to say it out loud, or to the friend who's been trying but doesn't quite understand. And if you're craving connection with people who get it, that's why the Care Collective exists. Please send me a DM or comment on a post and connect with another caregiver. It has been just amazing to see the people that have offered advice and been able to help each other because I'm really trying to build a space where caregivers don't have to shrink themselves to be understood. Just show up as yourself. And if that means you show up crying, that's okay because we're all here to support you and you do not have to navigate this alone. So, just in closing, again, I want to acknowledge that caregiving does change you and sometimes it changes your relationships too, but it does not make you unworthy of friendship. It just means that you're walking through something difficult. So I see you and I see all of the work you're putting in to help your people. And so I appreciate that. I'll talk to you next week.